So we're going to be going over how to read from a CSV file in Android. And it's quite similar to reading from a CSV file from another Java application like you've done before. So we're going to open up a few things. We're going to open up where it says model, and then we're going to open up controller, and we are going to open up Gradle scripts. We're going to need all three of those to make sure that this works. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to create, say, a new utility class. This utility class will help me do stuff that I would otherwise not necessarily want to do all in my activity class because I don't want to put too much code there. So I'm going to go to Google search where there's a folder. I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to create a new Java class called just util. And this is going to be sort of my utility class for my whole app. And it's going to let me do different things that would be good to put outside of the main activity. So then we're going to create this method. Now our method is going to be a public static void method because we want to use it outside of here, and then we say we want to do read CSV, and you can call it anything that you'd like, but mainly we're going to have to go ahead and use, at least for this example, read CSV. I'm going to start here at the main activity, and I'm going to show you a couple of things of why some things happen, and then I will go back to the utils class. So ideally what I would want to do is here in this activity, and you'll create a new activity other than this main activity, but I'm gonna start with this one. I'll go with util.readCSV, and I'll be able to call that, and then that would go ahead and read my CSV as necessary and then add it to the tree, which is much cleaner than writing everything in this class. But there's a few things that I'm going to need. First, if I look at the assets folder, I notice that there's a CSV file in here. And to be able to access these assets folders, you need to be able to use a specific function. Now, that specific function is called getAssets. And to be able to do that, I need to be able to have a context. Now, a context is really just a screen, or like where I'm trying to do stuff. So the first thing that I want to do is, if I was just reading everything in this class and I wasn't using read CSV, the function that I just created, then I could do something like get assets and then open, and then I would give it the name of the file that I am trying to open. In this case, TA restaurants curated CSV, and then I would go ahead and finish that off. Now, what this is going to return is an input stream object, and I'm going to call that data, and I'm going to save it, and then it's going to complain that I haven't handled my exception, so I would go ahead and do a try here, and then I would catch it, and I would say exception E, and there we go. So if I have this in my try catch, things are a little bit easier, and now I can go ahead and do that. To be able to get this get assets, I have to, again, be inside of a context or an activity, and if I don't have that context, then I can't do anything with it. So if I try to get assets here in my utils class, I just can't find that, which is no good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a context from somewhere, and I'm going to say main screen. And from the main activity, I will want to pass in a context. So I'm going to do util.readCSV get base context, which is the screen that I'm using right now. So now that I've passed in that context, I'm able to use get assets in my utils class. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in here, and I'm going to say yes, sure. And then it's going to say, I'm still not sure how to do that, so I will do main screen dot get assets, and now I'm able to use get assets outside of this class, which is perfect. So I have this very clean method that I'm calling over here, and now I can go ahead and start writing things. Now, the first thing that you might want to do, if you don't want to go through too much trouble, is that you might just want to use a scanner. Now it's easy enough to call in scanner, let it autocomplete, say my scanner, or SC for short, and then new scanner. And then to be able to use this, I just go ahead and say data, and I can just use the scanner right away, which is great. I can do lots of things with the scanner. That's pretty easy. So let's say that I wanted to just print out the first line that the scanner will read. So I go sc dot next line, system dot out. It's going to print it, and I'm just going to go ahead and say first line here. And if I run my app, I should be able to see this printed out on the screen. So now I have this app. It's going to run and build the task. It's going to go ahead and rebuild the app, and it was able to print this out. So I noticed that it printed out the first line, and if I go to this curated, it's the exact same first line as that one, which is great to see, and that's exactly what I was looking for. So with Scanner, you can just go ahead and try to get that pretty easily, and then try to parse it yourself if you wanted to parse it yourself, which is what I ended up doing the first time around. But I've also been aware that there's CSV libraries out there that you can use, and then they would help you do all sorts of good stuff. So let's go through that really quickly. If you open up your build.grader, this is where you can add libraries and dependencies. So if you wanted to add Firebase, or if you wanted to add some other library that you found online that does something really helpful for you, you can just put it in here, and then it'll go ahead and just add it for you, which is great. So one of the things that you'll want to do is that you'll want to use the Apache Commons library, which is the 1.8. And I'll go ahead and link this in the video. And then you just put it here in your dependencies. So go ahead and paste that in, and then click Sync Now, and it's going to download all of that for you, which is really helpful. And you'll be able to use now this CSV reading library that is going to let you do all sorts of good stuff. So I go ahead, and now that I have this, I will go back to my utility class, and instead of just using the scanner, I'm going to use this new feature that I just downloaded, which is a reader. So how do I use this? Well, I need to create an object, and I'm going to say comment this line out and comment this line out. And I'm going to create an object which is of type CSV record. But before I create that CSV record, I have to make sure that I say that it's going to be iterable. It's something that can go in a for loop. And then I could say CSV record, and I let it autocomplete, and you'll see how it was imported up here. And now let's just call that records. And now I have a specific line that is going to help me out, which is going to say the CSV format is going to be Excel format. And you might be wondering, like, where would you get that from, or how would you know that you can use CSV format or Excel format? And you can really just look at the documentation online, and you'll be able to find that. And that will help a lot in being able to do that. So if I go to the documentation, and I notice that there's quite a few formats that I can use, one of the formats is just going to be a CSV for an Excel file. So that's the one that I'll be using. And then I will say this file has some headers. So instead of you having to figure out what each header is, you can say this file has some headers, and then I want to go ahead and parse this file. And what are you going to put in parse? Well, you're going to, you could try to do just the data, so like parse my data, which is this input stream. But that's not going to work quite right. So you're going to have to create an input stream reader, and then give that data to the input stream reader. And then that way your records will be able to go through this whole file, and then they're going to be here. So what's going to happen in this is that each one of these lines, except for the headers, is going to become a record. And then you can get all sorts of stuff from those records. So let's see how to get something out of a record. And you could use a for loop for this because it's an iterable, or you can use a normal for each loop, for loop, while loop, or you can just get the next thing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the first thing. So I'm going to say system.out.println, and then I'm going to give it this, and then I'm going to go records.iterator.next. So I'm just going to get the next thing that I can find, and then for that next thing, I'll just print it out first. So what this is going to do is going to give me an object of type record that's going to have the things that I found inside of this line. So now that I run it, this app will be we'll go to this main activity. Main activity will call CSV reader. CSV reader will come in here and then read that record pretty quickly. So then I will see if my app ran. Great. And then I'm going to look for my record that should have been printed at some point. And you can find it right here. So it goes comment null, record number, values, and then it has all sorts of information and so on. So it has a few values, and I can see here that there's the name, which would be that right there, and then the 0, and then the cuisine style, ratings, and so on. So how do I get these things out? Now the best thing that I could try to do is, instead of just saying next, I'm going to say get, and I'm going to try to get the name out. And let's see what happens with that name. As I went ahead and printed here, and it's trying to install successfully, it's going to tell me that the name didn't quite work out. So I can't quite find where it says record, and then it goes, okay, we couldn't find a record with that name. And one of the things that I would do is, well, why isn't it giving me the name? You know, it should work. So I guess one of the things that I could try is maybe something went wrong, and then I'll just call this app to be built again and see if that's okay. And then I can find here where it goes get 0, and it seems like it's working, but it doesn't give me anything. So I'll go back here and look at my headers, and I notice that name was the capital N. It's not with a lowercase n, so that's not quite the header that I'm looking for. So let me go ahead, shut down this app, run it again, and see if this helps me out a little bit better. So you notice here that yes, it does print out twice, and that's something that you can try and figure out why it's doing and try to fix it yourself. But now it gave me the first record's name, which would be Martine's table. And that's great because I can look for each record's different headers. So I can go in this case, then I go cuisine styles, and it's going to give me back hopefully the cuisine styles, and see if that works. Now if I look at my curated one, the cuisine styles are French, Dutch, and European, and it says again that it lost connection, so it couldn't quite do it, so it must have meant that I typed in wrong, cuisine style. It's not cuisine styles. The best thing that you can do here is just create some constants with this so that you don't mess it up every time. Just go ahead and create some constants for the headers, and then you'll be okay. So what happens now? It gives you cuisine style. So we go back here and we notice that it's actually the next one's cuisine style, not this top one. So what happened? Well, I called next here and it gave me the first one, and then I called next again and it gave me the second one. So what would you do? Well, maybe you just save this iterator, and and put it as a variable beforehand and then call get from that same one over and over. You could also, if you wanted to, just put that in a for each loop. So you can say for and then each, and then you can say CSV record rec in records, and then you can go ahead and try to get something for each record. So you go like rec dot get name, and this is going to print out a whole bunch of names, and let's see if that's okay. So here it gave me that it wasn't able to do what I wanted to. So what happens here is that I go to rec, and you try to figure out exactly what went wrong. So maybe I want to do something like system.out.println rec.get and then name, and now I'll be able to do it. Or I could save this in a variable and then print that out. And this should work out better. So you can see here, it just starts printing all sorts of stuff. It goes through and it's going to take quite a while. But we can stop it, and you're going to notice that this took quite a long time, and it's just printing out thousands and thousands of names one at a time. It'll be important for you to go ahead and do something here in this for loop for each one of those records, and then you'll be able to create an object for those and store them in your tree, which will be very helpful. And if you have any problems with this, let me know. We'll put up instructions and reach out anytime.